There's a rumor going around. If you like this video and subscribe, you will be in springtime of your youth. Hi guys, this is the next part of What if Itachi Uchiha was reincarnated in the world of fairy tale? I hope you enjoy. Having told Urza and Mira Jane about his past, Itachi felt like a heavy weight was lifted off his shoulders, but there was still much more, which would be removed once he had told the others. Also, Itachi couldn't help but notice the strange looks everyone had been giving him, Urza and Mira Jane, as the others could clearly see that the two girls had been crying, and the fact that they were sitting next to Itachi looking at him with looks of sorrow, made the others wonder, what the hell did Itachi say to them? Exclamation mark. Makarov approached Itachi and jumped onto a barrel that was right in front of the Uchiha. So, I see that things went well, Makarov said with a warm fatherly smile as he knew that Itachi had told the two girls everything. Well, I guess you could say that, Itachi replied with a stoic look, and everyone who didn't know what was going on grew frustrated, over not knowing what they were talking about. So, Master, how long did you know about that? Urza asked, and everyone, including Laxus who stood in the background, but still listening in on the conversation, moved a little closer to find out what they were talking about. Oh, since the day you and Itachi joined the guild. I'm just glad that he finally decided to tell you about this. Makarov replied. It was just so sad. Mira struggled to hold back her tears as Itachi petted the top of her head to comfort her. What the hell are you guys talking about? Natsu questioned, throwing a fit as he flipped over a table. Yeah, don't leave us out. Everyone else shouted in unison. I will fill you all in once we're back at the guild with the rest. Itachi replied emotionlessly. By the way, Itachi looked over at the group from their guild that hadn't been asleep for 7 years. What was the name of the guild that took care of you? Itachi asked as he heard them mention on the way to the boat that a so-called guild that arrived in Magnolia and has helped their guild, well, more like terrorized for payment. The members of their guild that weren't asleep for 7 years looked down in shame. Twilight Ogre, that's the name of their guild. Alzak was the one to reply. Oh, Twilight Ogre huh? Itachi hummed and looked back out at the blue ocean. As they were approaching Harjin, Itachi had already made a mental note of his next stop. Once everyone had arrived at Harjin, they took a carriage back to Magnolia. Natsu and Gajeel were the first ones to jump out from the carriage once they arrived, both looking like they were about to hurl, and after them came Wendy, who didn't feel too good herself. We're finally here, Natsu cheered and was about to go in the direction of their guild hall. Hang on, Natsu. Our old guild hall is closed off, remember? We're heading to the old tavern up the hill. Makarov stopped the pink-haired dragon slayer from going any further. Can't we just claim it back? Natsu questioned. Unless you have a lot of money on you, then no. Makarov bluntly replied. That reminds me, wouldn't most of us be homeless by now? I mean, none of us have paid rent in 7 years. Mira Jane said, and everyone that was stuck on Tenro for 7 years, besides Laxus and Gildarts, looked worried. Oh no, our house happy. We gotta check up on our house. Natsu shouted in concern. My fish. Happy shouted, worried about his food. I think that fish is rotten and gone by now, besides who even cares about a rundown old cabin in the woods? Lucy pointed out the facts for the duo that was Natsu and Happy. Unlike me, I'm screwed. Lucy paled as she was terrified of her landlord, if that old lady could even still be considered her landlord now. Yeah, I don't care. Not as long as I got my sweet Kana with me. Gildarts embraced his daughter in a hug, much to the guild's drinking champion's annoyance. Quit it, you old geezer. Kana tried to push her father back as he was rubbing his cheek up against hers with a goofy grin on his face. Let's just get to the guild. Urza sighed as it seemed pointless to worry about things that they couldn't do anything about. But then she noticed that her older brother was missing. Where is Oni-san? Meanwhile, outside of Twilight Ogre's guild hall, Itachi looked up at the massive building that belonged to the guild that had been harassing his guild, while he was gone for 7 years. He figured doing something like this was the least he could do as repayment for his absence in the past 7 years. Itachi looked at the guild hall as his black eyes turned blood red with 3 black tomos and a black dot in the center. Meanwhile, inside the guild hall of Twilight Ogre. Hey, has anyone seen Thiago around? A guild member asked for one of their own. Yeah, he went with his crew up to those fairy losers to get our money. Another one said, and the whole guild erupted in laughter. Hey, those weaklings should be glad we went out of our way to help them. Another one said with a cruel looking smirk. And they better pay up this time. A fat man sitting by a desk the guild master of Twilight Ogre declared while counting money. "You are not getting anything from us," a voice said as the giant gate door was kicked down, making a large thud as they hit the floor. Everyone stood up in shock as they got in position to fight. "You are going to pay back Fairy Tail every single last penny that you owe us for property damage and abuse." Itachi stood in a cloud of dust gathered from the doors as his Sharingan flared up bright red. "What? You must have a death wish. Just who the hell do you think you are?" A member of Twilight Ogre shouted and took one step towards Itachi, who suddenly stood right in front of him with his fist planted in his gut, making the Twilight Ogre member lean forward while spurting out blood. "I'm the one known as the Demon Eyes of Fairy Tail, Itachi Uchiha." Itachi glared at the man coldly as he fell over, knocked out. "Get him!" the Twilight Ogre Guild Master shouted, and the entire guild leapt towards Itachi. Itachi slowly looked up at the Twilight Ogre members jumping him, and widened his eyes as his Sharingan rotated. The very next moment most of them started to burn away like their bodies had turned into paper. They all started to scream out in pain as they fell crashing to the ground, knocked out unconscious. "Arg. What the G, get him!" The guild master stuttered a little in surprise, and they all charged at Itachi with magic weapons, or spells. Everyone slammed their weapons, and blasted him with their attacks. The moment their attacks made contact, Itachi's body turned into a murder of crows which shocked and frightened everyone. The very next moment, punches and kicks could be heard around the entire guild hall, and the screams of Twilight Ogre's guild members echoed throughout the guild. The very next moment Itachi stood right in front of the Twilight Ogre Guild Master, who looked frightened as he had sweat running down his face. "Now then, the payments, shall we discuss them?" Itachi asked with a cold narrowed gaze while his Sharingan glowed bright red, which only increased the Guild Master's fear of Itachi. Then a figure charged up from behind him, a young woman with violet eyes and neck-long pink hair, and a curvaceous figure, as she was dressed in a blue outfit that resembled that of a cat. She also had a crimson fire coming from her lower back like a tail, and the same fire around the back of her head. "Don't underestimate the idol of fire and ice, Madden Ginger of Twilight Ogre Deki." The young woman spun her body, swinging the flames at Itachi, who remained unfazed. "You're in the way," Itachi said, and delivered a backwards kick that hit Ginger in her side, sending her crashing into a table that was smashed to pieces. The guild master flinched in fear as Itachi looked down on him. "Now then, are you going to pay my guild back what you owe us or not?" We don't owe you. You owe us. We helped your friends out when they were in a pinch. They are the ones that have to pay us back," the guild master declared. "Is that right? Although the loan you provided my guild in the first place has already been paid off from my understanding, and you, being so full of yourself about being the guild that represents Magnolia now, have demanded more money." "Well, guess what?" Itachi said as suddenly the air turned foul, the atmosphere became heavier. "I won't allow it anymore," Itachi said as his bangs covered his left eye while he was releasing a ton of bloodlust that made everyone in the guild tremble in fear, all unable to move as their bodies had frozen in fear. Ginger, like her guild mates and master, had a look of fear as sweat ran down their faces and their bodies trembling, as around Itachi the shadow of a demonic beast be seen. "Wah, what is this?" a member of the guild questioned. "I'm scared. What is this guy?" another member questioned. Wait. I remember him now, the mightiest in the entire Fairy Tail Guild, their newest ace member who defeated the legendary Guildarts, Itachi Uchiha, the Demon Eyes of Fairy Tail, Madden Ginger uttered as everyone else seemed to remember as well and began to back away in fear. "Pay back what you owe, or else I will show you a world of pain that you can't even begin to imagine," Itachi threatened as the guild master fell down from his chair and backed himself up against the wall. "Well, just you wait until the Magic Council hears about this," the Twilight Ogre's master threatened, thinking he had found leverage over Itachi. "Have you never heard of this before?" Itachi questioned, and the Twilight Ogre's guild master only raised a brow in confusion. "Fairy Tail has never given a damn about what the council thinks. So, your threat is just as empty as your title. You are no master, you are nothing but a mere greedy coward. And since you insist on not paying us back, I will do as I promised." Itachi went down to eye level with the guild master and looked him straight in the eyes. "I will show you a world of pain that you cannot even begin to imagine." Itachi widened his eyes as his Sharingan looked straight into the Twilight Ogre's guild master's eyes. The next thing that happened was that Twilight Ogre's master's body began to burn. It began to melt piece by piece, and the guild master screamed in pain and horror as his body was reduced into a melted pile of glue. Then he woke up from the illusion screaming and sweating as Itachi still looked at him with a cold gaze. That was merely a taste of what I can do to make sure you feel pain. Now, pay us back what you owe, Itachi said in a final demanding tone as his patience was running thin. Here. Take it. Just leave me be. The guild master shook in fear and threw down a bag of money, and then another one, and another one. Just so you know, I will know if you are lying to me and not giving me all you owe us, Itachi said as he released even more bloodlust. Alright, I think we owed you a few more jewels, here take it. The guild master nervously threw down one last bag. Itachi picked up all the bags and deactivated his Sharingan and lowered his bloodlust to the point of 0. Much obliged, Itachi said and left the guild hall, leaving all the member of Twilight Ogre trembling in fear. Itachi let out a sigh as he exited the guild hall of Twilight Ogre. That should make up for my absence, Itachi said with a calm stoic expression as he moved at high speed towards the Fairy Tail Guildhall. Itachi arrived just in time to see Natsu, Gray, Urza, Gajil and Makarov beating down a small group of Twilight Ogre mages. Itachi walked into the guild and was met by the laughing faces, and the crying expressions of their friends welcoming them home. Itachi smiled warmly as he saw his friends, some that hadn't seen him for 7 years, and they all had certainly grown, especially Romeo Conbolt the son of Macau, the little wizard with his clothing looked like a miniature Natsu. Welcome home, Natsu-ni, everyone. Romeo cried tears of joy. Where did you run off to? Mira asked and then noticed Itachi was carrying 4 bags of money. Just went to get back what Twilight Ogre owed us, Itachi replied and threw the bags onto the guild floor and everyone let out a cheer. Itachi looked at the rowdy bunch having a party and couldn't help but smile at the scene in front of him. It's good to be home, Itachi uttered, which was heard by only Mira Jane, who let out a small giggle. Yeah, we're finally home. Mira smiled at her boyfriend, who smiled back at her. Yosh, now that we're back, Itachi, fight me. Natsu charged headed towards Itachi with flames surrounding his fist. Itachi looked at Natsu with his Sharingan and put the Fire Dragon Slayer in an illusion that made him fall fast asleep. We just got back home, I will fight you later, probably, Itachi said with his usual stoic face as Natsu laid on the ground snoring and everyone laughed. Everyone started to party like there was no tomorrow to make up for the past 7 years. But then, the mood changed when Itachi stood up and had a serious look on his face. Everyone, can I have your attention for a moment, huh? What's wrong? Laxus asked as he was being surrounded by the Thunder God tribe that was overjoyed with seeing him again, but now looked at Itachi with a raised brow. Back at Tenro Island, I'm sure those who were there remember a certain bounty hunter that came there, Itachi said, referring to Kakuzu. Oh yeah, that masked creep with multiple hearts, Gajil said as he remembered him as clear as day, and wanted to bash his face in. Oh yeah, that guy, Natsu uttered with the same look as Gajil. What about him? Lucy questioned. He told me that the puppet master, Sasori we met during the Nirvana incident, was still alive, and not just that, I found something out, something far more disturbing than those two, Itachi said, and everyone started to look confused, besides Makarov, Mira Jane and Urza. A man named Madara Uchiha, who is my ancestor, and the mightiest to come from my clan, lives, Itachi said, and everyone looked confused and shocked that an ancestor of Itachi was alive, but they still didn't understand what this was about. Hey, Altair mentioned Madara, didn't she? She said that he was her father or something and you suddenly looked all scared, Gray pointed out, and everyone paid even closer attention. That is because Madara isn't a kind man, as one would say. He's a battle maniac, and a madman. Not only that, but his power is said to be so great, that people like the 10 wizard saints would be no match for him. I even doubt Acmelodia could beat him, Itachi said, and everyone gained a further look of shock. What I'm about to tell you is not that easy for me, but me, Madara, Kakuzu and Sasori are not from your world. We are from a different world called the Element of Nations. Itachi dropped the bomb and everyone looked surprised. Wait, you are from a different world? Seriously? Lucy questioned. Just like Mistogen was from Edalis, although unlike his world, mine is not a different version of yours, as none of you exist in it, Itachi said. But what are you doing here then? In our world, I mean, Wendy questioned while tilting her head to the side. In my old world, I died, Itachi said, and the shock on their faces grew even further. And me, along with Madara, Kakuzu, Sasori, and one more person who I have yet to identify, have been brought back to life by Zirf, Itachi said, and activated his Sharingan. I will show you everything about me, so that you can understand Madara, and the others better. Itachi said as he showed everyone the exact same events he had shown Urza and Mira Jane earlier. They witnessed everything, from Itachi's childhood during the Third Great Ninja War, to his life as a shinobi, to the night of the Uchiha clan massacre, to his days in the Akatsuki, to his death, and to his experience as a reanimated shinobi, and his final goodbyes to his brother Sasuke. Everyone was stunned, shocked, sweating, had a look of sadness, grief and sorrow, and some had a look of anger, but two looked down onto the floor, those being the Ice Wizard, Gray, and the pink-haired dragon slayer Natsu, while the blue cat Happy looked frightened and hid behind Natsu's leg. Charles flew in front of Wendy in a defending manner. And everyone besides Natsu, Gray, Happy, Charles, Laxus, Gildarts, Makarov, Gajeel, Panther Lily and Wendy despite her trying to get to him but was stopped by Charles. While Laxus, Gildarts, Gajeel, Panther Lily and Makarov didn't hug Itachi because they felt respect for Itachi, and they knew he knew. You've been through so much. Levi cried as she amongst others hugged Itachi. It's so sad. Jet and Droy cried in unison. Jubia feels so sad for Itachi-sama, as she and many others were emotionally moved by this. You will always be one of us. They all shouted in unison while hugging Itachi. Itachi then looked over to Natsu, Gray, Happy, Charles and Wendy. Charles let me through, I want to give him a hug too. Wendy said but was held back by Charles. You can't, Wendy. He is a murderer, he's dangerous. Charles said holding back a shocked Wendy. That's mean, Charles. How can you say that? He was forced to do it. Wendy shouted at her best friend, although Itachi couldn't blame the little white exceed for this reaction. Wendy, you saw it. He has been trained to kill from childhood. And he has killed hundreds of people. Charles said while still holding Wendy back. How can you say that? Exclamation mark. Think about all the times Itachi has helped us, and saved us. He is our friend, a part of our family. Wendy argued. Aye. Charles uttered as an image of Itachi preventing Commander Itachi from killing her and Wendy back in Edolis came to her mind, as well as many other events they have witnessed Itachi helping them out. I'm sorry. Charles apologized and let Wendy through. I forgive you, but I still don't fully trust you. Charles said and Itachi gave her a little smile. It's okay, I don't expect you to. Itachi said. Happy didn't say anything as he seemed terrified of Itachi. Happy. What's wrong? Lizana asked the little blue exceed that hid away even further as he looked at Itachi. I'm scared, Happy uttered. Happy, there is nothing to be scared of. Itachi is who he has always been. Lizana tried to comfort the frightened little blue cat. And once again Itachi couldn't really blame Happy. He knew how simple-minded the little blue exceed was, so it was only natural that he would be scared after seeing all the people Itachi has killed. Itachi then looked over at Gray and Natsu who were still looking down onto the floor. I understand your situation and why you did what you did, Gray said while still looking down. Everyone looked at him confused as to why he didn't react like most of them. Gray-sama, Jubia questioned. Gray then had memories of his father and mother getting killed by Deliora, and all giving her life to stop said monster. But I still can't agree with what you have done. Gray clenched his fists so hard that blood started to drip from them. You are just as bad as Deliora. Gray shouted and stormed out of the guildhall while Itachi still had a stoic expression. Gray-sama, Jubia shouted and ran after Gray. As she approached the door she looked back at Itachi and smiled. Don't worry Itachi-sama, Jubia is sure Gray-sama will see reason sooner or later. Jubia said and ran after Gray. Itachi couldn't blame Gray, knowing that he lost his entire family and seeing Itachi doing the same to Sasuke must have been too much for him. You killed your own family. Natsu growled in anger. Arg. Natsu charged at Itachi. It was understandable. Natsu had ever since he came to the guild been looking for his father Igneel. It would only be natural considering that despite all this, he witnessed Itachi killing his own father and mother, among many others. Natsu felt betrayed. He was someone who felt family was the most important thing, and seeing Itachi consciously make a choice like that, made him feel betrayed. Natsu was stopped by Urza who held him back. Let go of me, Natsu shouted. He had no choice. They were going to die either way Natsu. Either he did it and saved his brother, or everyone would have died. Urza said trying to calm the pink-haired dragon slayer down. Itachi put an illusion on Urza making her let go, and Natsu rushed at Itachi and punched him across the face. He then delivered another punch. You killed them. You killed all of them. Natsu cried as he kept throwing punch after punch leaving many guild members in shock. Natsu, stop it, Lucy shouted. Natsu, stop, Lizana shouted, and then Laxus grabbed Natsu and pulled him back. Let go of me, Natsu shouted. Let him go, Laxus. Itachi uttered and Laxus widened his eyes and so did everyone else. Laxus was so shocked that Natsu was able to break free from his grip and delivered another punch, this time infused with flames, right into Itachi's face. Natsu panted as tears still ran down his face. You, arg. Natsu screamed and stormed out as well. Natsu, wait. Happy flew after his friend. Natsu, wait, come back. Lizana shouted and ran after her childhood friend. Natsu. Lucy ran after the Dragon Slayer as well. Don't worry Itachi, I will talk some sense into that idiot. Lucy shouted as she ran out the door. Urza and Mira Jane supported Itachi up. Urza then gritted her teeth in anger. That imbecile. I will go after him as well. No, Urza, let him be. He needs to blow off some steam, just let him be. Itachi stopped his sister from going after Natsu. Why would he do that? Doesn't he understand you had no choice in doing what you did? Urza questioned in anger. Put yourself in Gray and Natsu's shoes. Gray saw his entire family killed before his very eyes by Deliora. Seeing me do something like that to Sasuke must have made him act irrational. And Natsu thinks family is the most important thing in the entire world. And he just saw me choose to kill my own, regardless of my reasons. It's only understandable that he would react like that. On top of that, he is a hothead. You can't blame them for reacting the way they did, I certainly don't. I told both you and Mira that on the ship, remember? Even if you end up hating me for what I have done, I will love you always. The same goes for everyone in here, even the two of them. None of you have to forgive me, nor do any of you have to like what I have done. Itachi said, and everyone did understand why Natsu and Gray would react like that. They all knew that it was going to take some time before the two of them got over it and accepted Itachi for his actions. Everyone remained silent after Itachi's words. Like I said, I'm not asking either one of you to forgive me for the things I have done. Nor do I expect either of you to be happy with the decisions I have made. I showed you this for two reasons: one, to help you understand your enemy better, meaning Madara. 2, to be the one to tell you and not risk that you hear it from someone who doesn't know the full story. Itachi said as everyone had a look of understanding, and some looked afraid, especially of this Madara figure. Oh, Itachi, Kana uttered and cried into Gildart's cape. Gildart's same as Laxus looked at Itachi with newfound respect. You truly are amazing, kid, having gone through all that, and lived in a world like that, and not ended up as a madman yourself, like this Madara is unbelievable. Not to mention, despite having gone through all of that, you still have this much love in your heart. You truly are more amazing and stronger than me, Itachi Uchiha. Gildart's thought, holding nothing but greater respect for Itachi, same with Laxus. You really are incredible, you know that. Laxus said, showing nothing but a look of respect for the one he considered his rival. To have gone through such things, it's horrible and unfair. Wendy cried, feeling the pain and sadness Itachi felt was too overwhelming for her and many others. Wow, Gajil uttered as he also had a look of respect for Itachi, same with Panther Lily. What I am worried about is how to deal with this Madara. From what the legends you have heard, he is supposed to be the mightiest of your clan. Itachi, how much more powerful would you say he is compared to yourself? Makarov asked, and everyone looked at Itachi, some hoping that Madara wasn't that much stronger than Itachi so that they could deal with him. Honestly, I don't think I am any match for him. Especially since Zirf could have made him even stronger than in his legends, like how he made me stronger. It is possible that Madara is so strong, that our entire guild wouldn't stand a chance against him. And for all I know, Sasori, Kakuzu and this other person Zirf brought back are siding with him, and Sasori and Kakuzu aren't that far away from my level, so it is safe to assume that this other person is at their level as well. Itachi said, and everyone began to grow concerned. Yeah, I must say though, you come from an impressive bloodline there, kid. Although, this Madara guy seems to be someone I would like to avoid, especially if he is as strong as you say he is. Gildart said as he seemed just as worried as Makarov. Then all we have to do is get stronger, right? Besides, are we even sure if this Madara is coming after us? Laxus questioned. There is no guarantee that he is or isn't, but considering what he has been known as in his legends, he is probably at the moment plotting from the shadows. And he might not even care about us at all. But that is something I'm not willing to risk. But you are right, we need to grow stronger. Itachi replied and looked at everyone and saw looks of determination, fear, people not being sure if they could grow strong enough, but he still saw a lot of determined faces of people like Laxus, Urza, Mira Jane, Gajil, Gildarts, Kana and a few others. We're talking about a man whose very name brings fear in so many from my world, a man who was the only one able to go head to head with Hashirama Senju, who was known as the god of shinobi during his lifetime and was still considered it after his time. We might never end up fighting him, but we need to be prepared to if it should ever come to it. The very next day things went on about their usual business, although the feelings of grief and sorrow were still found in the atmosphere in the guild hall, as well as feelings of fear for the new opponents the guild might have to face in the future. Natsu and Gray still hadn't returned to the guild hall, along with Happy, Lucy, Lizana and Juvia. After all that happened, Itachi hadn't expected them to return right away. And of course, now people started to catch up with each other on what has happened for the past 7 years with one another. And one particular thing was shocking for a certain red-haired knight. What? You two got married? Urza questioned in shock as she had just found out that Alzak and Biska were married. Yeah, 6 years ago. Alzak replied. And get this, Urza. I was the one who proposed to him. You should have seen the look on his. Don't bring that up, Alzak shouted, stopping his wife from embarrassing him any further. See, congratulations. I'm proud and honored to be your daughter-in-law. Urza got things mixed up as she placed herself in their shoes, as she was for some reason blushing with steam coming out from her head. What is Urza talking about? Elfman questioned with an amused grin. She's put herself in their shoes and gotten all mixed up. Mira said with an amused smile herself. That's wonderful. Do you have any children? Lizana asked. One daughter. Biska replied. Her name is Asuka. Alzak said. Oh Oni-san. Urza grabbed Itachi by his collar while still blushing madly. At your wedding with Mira Jane. I would like to be the maid of honor. Urza declared, making Itachi sweat drop. Wouldn't that have to be something you would need to ask Mira about? And besides, we're not engaged. Itachi said with a stoic expression. You are a true man, Itachi. That's why, I will let you marry Nei-san. Elfman declared, having nothing but respect for Itachi after seeing his past. This statement, however, was making his older sister blush, feeling a little embarrassed. We just started dating, it's not like we're going to marry each other right away. Itachi pointed out, causing all those who weren't on Tenro Island 7 years ago to gain a shocked look, as not learning about his past was more than enough of a shocker, and now this. What? You two started dating? I mean, you have already kissed and all, we all remember that much. But when did you two officially start dating? Alzak was the one to ask the question. I confessed my feelings to Mira right before Acnologia's attack hit us, and she responded by telling me that she loved me as well. Itachi replied with a calm and stoic look while Mira was blushing faintly with a little happy smile. Hey, Itachi my boy, come here for a second. Makarov said, waving for Itachi to come over to him. Mikao and Wakaba, who were sitting by the bar counter of this small rundown tavern. Yes, Master, I mean, Makarov, what can I do for you? Itachi asked, as Makarov wasn't the master of the guild anymore, but Mikao was. I was wondering, how would you like to be the guild's next master? Makarov asked with a grin. Why? Itachi questioned, as he wasn't really interested. Why not? As the guild is now, we could use a young, powerful and wise master. And Mikao wouldn't mind giving up his title and hand it over to you. Besides, back at Tenro Island before you guys decided to stick around and save me from Acnologia, I said you would be the next master, didn't I? So, what do you say? Makarov asked. I decline. Itachi instantly replied with his usual stoic face. Wait, what? Makarov questioned as he looked dumbfounded. I don't think I'm ready for that yet. Besides, I don't see the point in it. It's not exactly like some guild members trust me completely yet anyway. Plus, you are still very much suited for that role. But if you want to hand it down to someone, why not Gildarts? Itachi suggested, as he knew better, that Gildarts would probably bail out on the role of master, but this way at least the focus would be taken off of him. I see. Very well then, I suppose Gildarts becomes the master instead. But I wouldn't worry, the others will come around and trust you once more, I just know it. Makarov said with a warm fatherly smile at Itachi, and then he looked over to Gildarts, who was bragging to different people in the guild that he was Kana's father, very much to his daughter's annoyance. Although I think it would be better if this got solved quicker, Makarov uttered. The doors of the guild then busted open, and in walked two figures, Juvia and her beloved Gray, who glared at Itachi with an ice-cold glance. Everyone stood in a circle around the two, as Gray walked right up to Itachi and looked him straight in the eyes, and Itachi did the same. Juvia looked a little concerned as she stood right behind Gray. Gray then, to everyone's surprise, bowed his head. "I'm sorry for what I said, I acted irrational and didn't think straight. But, I'm sorry, but I still don't completely trust you." Itachi looked at Gray with a little smile on his lips. "It's fine, you don't have to apologize. I did do some terrible things and I don't blame you nor Natsu for reacting the way you did. I still consider you my comrade and a part of my family, even if you don't. And I will do my best to earn back your trust, same with all of you that have any doubt towards me. After all we have been through, I cannot help but view you as family as well." But despite that, Gray uttered as his body was shaking. "It's fine, arguments and disagreements happens with every family, in fact I believe this makes us even more like a family," Itachi said with a smile, causing mostly everyone in the guild to smile. Juvia was amongst those smiling, and then she looked over at Gray. "Hey, you really are something," Gray said with a small smile as he walked right past Itachi, but Itachi could feel that Gray was now even more wary of him, although Itachi had expected as much from him. Itachi believed in Makarov's words that they would come around and trust him once more. "Oh, welcome." Everyone's attention was directed at the front door where 5 figures walked in. "Oh, it seems everyone's here," a familiar voice said. It was Jura from Lamia Scale, also one of the 10 wizard saints. He looked slightly older and he had grown a long goatee. "With love, I offer my congratulations on your return," another familiar voice that belonged to Sherry, who looked older and mature. "I see you're all looking rather well," Jura said with a friendly smile. "It's strange to say that to people who haven't aged in 7 years, though," a short little man with blue hair and very big eyebrows said. This was Yuka, also from Lamia Scale, and then there was a man that looked like a dog, that was Toby. "Back to the old, rowdy guild, huh?" An older-looking Leon said with a smirk as he looked at Gray. "You guys," Gray said with slight shock. "Pegasus and Lamia both helped search for Tenro Island," Max explained. "Guess we owe you one," Gray said. "Hey, don't worry about it. Pegasus may have beaten us to the punch, but our skill is still superior," Leon said with a confident mocking grin at Gray. "That's what you meant?" Gray questioned with a sweat drop. Then things went on with some of the Lamia Scale members bragging about having come up to the second best guild in the country, while the number 1 remained unknown still. And then, Leon noticed a certain blue-haired water wizard that had a major crush on Gray. Is this what's known as love at first sight? Leon grabbed Juvia by the shoulders, having fallen head over heels for the water mage. "Huh?" Juvia questioned in confusion. "Yeah, you have no idea what you're getting into." Gray looked like he was about to burst out into laughter. Hold on, this puts Juvia in utter chaos," Juvia said, looking rather concerned, thinking every girl that was nice to Gray or any girl at all was in love with him, and has gotten a wild love drama going on in her head. "Gimme a break," Gray sighed. Gildarts was still doting all over Kana, much to her annoyance, and Alzak was showing off a drawing of his little daughter, that looked like a little dark-haired Bisca. And everyone struggled with the fact that they had to pay back the 7-year late long rent they owed. Except for Itachi, who didn't seem to really care, as he only rented an apartment after all, and he could always just sleep at the guild hall, so nothing concerned him about that. And then the very next day, Lizana returned to the guild and let out a small sigh as she entered. "That idiot is so stubborn," Lizana uttered as she hadn't succeeded in getting Natsu to come back. "Where's Lucy?" Mira Jane asked her little sister, who had a sad look on her face. The truth is, Lucy had found out that her father had died after she went to ask for him at his workplace. Lizana replied, and some people looked stunned. Lizana then went on to tell about how Lucy had been quiet after that, and after having gotten her apartment back from her landlord and seeing all the birthday gifts her father had sent, she mourned the death of her father and cried all night. And then she went back to tell Natsu about it after their failed attempt to get him to come back to the guild and apologize to Itachi. But when he had heard that Lucy was upset, he instantly went to cheer her up with Happy. The two came to her apartment asking if she wanted to go on a job with them. And that's where they had gone just now. The very next day, Natsu returned with Lucy and Happy to the guild. Natsu glared at Itachi with anger still in his eyes. Lucy sighed and elbowed Natsu. He grunted and looked at Itachi while Happy was hiding behind Natsu's legs, slightly poking his head out looking at Itachi. Natsu growled a little as he just walked straight past Itachi, ignoring him. Lucy let out a sigh. "I told him to apologize, that damn idiot." "It's fine, I don't want him to apologize. I don't want anyone to apologize, it is a mistake I made in the past and that's why I don't want anyone to apologize. Itachi said with a stoic expression. After all this, some of the guild members that were sealed away for 7 years realized something: if they weren't the strongest guild anymore, then who was? Everyone gathered around Romeo, who was about to explain. Sabretooth. Natsu questioned with a raised eyebrow after Romeo mentioned the name of the strongest guild in the land. Sabretooth, the Sword Fang Tigers. They surpassed Pegasus and Lamia to become Fiore's strongest wizard guild now. Romeo explained. Never heard of them. Gray said, as it was clear that no one had heard of a guild with that name 7 years ago. They weren't particularly noteworthy 7 years ago. Alzak said. Meaning they grew like crazy these past 7 years? Gray questioned with a raised brow. It began to take off when a new master took over and 5 incredible wizards joined. Max explained, and it did sound surprising that 5 people were enough to tip the scales in Sabretooth's favor when a guild like Lamia Scale had Jura. Just 5 people can change things that much? Lucy questioned. Sounds like they got some serious guts. Natsu said with an excited grin, as he wanted to fight anyone who sounded powerful. Incidentally, what rank is our guild? Wendy asked with an ignorant, pure, innocent little smile. You're seriously asking that? Happy asked, looking a little shocked. The answer is obvious, Wendy. Charles said with a sigh. We're obvious the weakest guild there is now. Like I said back on Tenro, it's obvious that when our most elite members had been missing for 7 years, our guild's reputation would go down the drain. Itachi said as he laid back on a chair that was up against the wall. Hey, I'm sorry. Wendy apologized as she saw the mood everyone who wasn't on Tenro 7 years ago had on their faces. Natsu let out a laughter as he seemed fine with the guild's status. I like it. That's great. Huh? Gray questioned in confusion that was shared by many. Don't you agree? We get to enjoy clawing our way back to the top again. I'm fired up, Natsu declared with excitement in his voice. Sheesh. Gray sighed and Lucy let out a small chuckle. There's no keeping you down, Natsu-ni. Romeo said. I agree. I look forward to it. Wendy agreed with Natsu. Hey guys. Have you seen Guildarts? Kana walked up to them and asked about her father, which many members were still surprised about. What's the matter? Lonely without your daddy around? Gray teased Kana, and not taking in consideration about the fact that Lucy found out that hers just died. You idiot. Kana scolded, and Gray realized what he had done. Sorry. Gray turned to Lucy, who gave him a reassuring smile saying it's fine. Guildarts went with Master to the old fairy tale building. Urza informed Kana as she entered the guild hall. Alright. Then I'm gonna go on a job while I can. Kana cheered and quickly went out before her doting father returned. Urza walked up to Itachi with a concerned look in her eyes for his well-being. Are you feeling okay? Despite what? Urza asked, considering the whole ordeal with Natsu, who she wanted to beat into a bloody pulp now. It's fine. Don't worry about it. The time will come when Natsu will understand. He is very thick-headed after all, so I didn't really expect him to accept me for what I have done right away. And in time Gray will come to fully trust me again. They both just need time. Itachi said as he really couldn't blame them, but he knew that them knowing about all that so that they could learn about Madara and the Akatsuki was worth it. He would rather want them hating him than getting killed. Still, after all this time, you'd think. Urza once again couldn't finish her sentence as Itachi interrupted her. It's precisely because of all the time we have spent together that they reacted this way, and it's precisely the reason why they will both understand and come to trust me again one day. Itachi was right about that. Natsu felt betrayed after all he had told Itachi many times about how he wanted to find Igneel, and it was clear that family was the most important thing to him. And seeing someone he respected choosing to kill his family made Natsu feel betrayed. While Gray, who understood why Itachi had to do what he did, still didn't like what he did to Sasuke, as Gray's situation of losing all he cared about was similar to Itachi's younger brother. So, don't go bearing any resentment towards them, okay? Itachi looked at Urza with an assuring smile. Urza looked down and let out a small sigh. Understood. Even if you are fine with it, Oni-san, I'm still not. You can't rush these kinds of things, Urza. But they will understand someday, and even if they might not like it, I will still be here to help them. I'm more concerned that Happy is going to be afraid of me forever, though. He's even more thick-headed than Natsu after all. Itachi said with an amused smile, trying to lighten up Urza's mood. Hey, well, his simple mind might make it too easy to get him to stop being afraid of you. Urza said as she shared an amused smile with Itachi. Perhaps. Itachi stretched his arms and got up from his chair. Still, I wonder what Madara is up to. Even more, I wonder who the final revived Akatsuki member is. Itachi thought as of this moment, this was the thing that concerned him the most, right along with what Zerf has done to Itachi himself and the others. Urza looked like she was in deep thought and then she walked over to the quest board. Meanwhile the blonde celestial mage was sitting by the bar counter with Natsu, gray and happy, when suddenly a sword stabbed into the counter, spooking them, as the sword was stabbed into a job request. Job, now. Urza looked at them with a frightening look making the four of them tremble. Wendy, Charles, Oni-san, you guys too. What? You want us to go on a job with him? Natsu questioned looking outraged while Gray looked uncomfortable. Got a problem? Urza gave a threatening glare to Natsu making him sweat bullets out of fear. No ma'am, Natsu uttered. Good, now let's go. Urza demanded. Itachi raised his brow. What brought this on all of the sudden? Itachi shrugged his shoulders and they all went. Wendy and Lucy looked uncomfortable at the atmosphere they were feeling, as Natsu was angry, having to go on a job with Itachi right now. And Gray, he just didn't know if he could trust Itachi right now. While Urza was unhappy about the attitude from Natsu and Gray, Itachi was also uncomfortable with the glares Natsu was sending him. Itachi leaned in towards Urza. Don't tell me you're doing this just to try and make things up between me, Natsu and Gray. Itachi whispered so that the others won't hear. What if I am? Urza asked. I told you these things take time, you can't rush things. Itachi whispered with a sigh at the fact that Urza was going through all this trouble. If it happens, and if it doesn't happen then so be it. Urza replied and they kept on going until they entered the woods. Where is this job again? Lucy asked trying to ease the tension. In a small town over that mountain. Urza replied and kept walking. As they walked further into the woods, the mist got thicker and thicker. Itachi noticed that something was wrong, he could feel someone watching them. Itachi activated his Sharingan to see if he could find anything, but for some reason, he couldn't. And as the mist kept growing the others' energy signatures began to fade as well. This is camouflage magic. Itachi widened his eyes and thought back. Flashback. 9 years ago, camouflage magic. A younger-looking Itachi questioned as he was talking to Makarov. Itachi had just returned from a job hunting for an assassin, and for some reason, he wasn't able to spot him with his Sharingan and had to use tracking skills to find him. Once the job was over he had decided to ask the master about this. Camouflage magic, it's a spell that conceals one's presence completely. They even managed to mask away their Ethernano, which would explain why your eyes weren't able to detect him. Makarov replied with a stern serious expression. Really? How does that magic work? Itachi questioned trying to get a better understanding of the spell. It is mostly used by assassins against high-powered mages. They would conceal their magic so that they can't be detected and kill their target. However, since this magic conceals away one's magic, they can't use another spell while using it, or else their Ethernano would flare up and they would be detected. So, those who uses it tends to use a weapon to kill their target. Then again, someone could use the spell to hide something else while fighting you and using magic as he is not trying to conceal himself, and wouldn't have to worry about that. What is in the mist of the camouflage magic would use a spell, so that whatever is in the mist doesn't get detected. Makarov explained the functions of the spell, and its weakness. Flashback end. Everyone. Itachi turned around and noticed that everyone was gone. He looked around and noticed that he couldn't detect any energy source thanks to the camouflage magic. If you are looking for your friends, they are not here anymore, but my prisoners. A dark deep voice echoed through the woods. Itachi looked around trying to find the source, but because of the echo he couldn't pinpoint it down. Your eyes won't find me, I have studied you and your abilities. I have waited 9 long years for this, but then you vanished 7 years ago, and I thought I would never get a chance. But, once I heard that you had returned, I couldn't wait, for revenge. 9 years, wait, you are, Itachi uttered as all the mist vanished and he was all alone. Itachi looked on the ground only to find Urza's sword laying on the ground. Itachi picked it up and strapped it onto his belt. He then bent down and looked closer at the ground. Seems they were knocked out. These marks clearly indicates that multiple people fell down. Itachi investigated as he could see it from the squashed weeds and the dust marks on the ground. Although, it seems that only 4 of them fell down, plus 2 smaller ones which are clearly Happy and Charles. Which means either one of them was taken standing, or something else. Itachi uttered. But how did he carry all of them out from here? Did he have help? Itachi thought, rubbing his chin. Itachi began investigating the area to try and track them down. This bush has been stepped on. Itachi walked over to the bush and moved further. He found small traces and tracks of this man. Strange. He wasn't this easy to track before. Itachi thought and kept on tracking them. Meanwhile, elsewhere, inside of a cave was Natsu and the others. Natsu got up while rubbing the back of his head. Ouch. What the heck happened? Natsu got up and noticed that everyone was unconscious, and they were trapped inside a barrier. What the heck is going on? AHG. My head. Gray got up and looked around in confusion, and the others began to wake up as well. Where are we? Wendy questioned, looking confused just like the others. I have no idea, Lucy replied. This is an enchantment barrier, Charles said as the barrier was like their guild mate Freed's magic. Did Freed do this? Happy questioned in confusion. If he did, I'ma fry him. Natsu declared. It wasn't him, we were ambushed. Urza said. Ambushed? By who? Gray questioned. By me. A dark voice reached their ears, and a man dressed in a silver samurai uniform wearing a samurai helmet, resembling Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He looked very muscular and from the looks slightly taller than Itachi. Who the heck are you? Natsu questioned while growling at him. That is not important. I am here for one thing and one thing only. The samurai replied while crossing his arms. What do you want? Lucy questioned. Simple. I want Itachi Uchiha. The samurai replied as everyone gained a confused look. Why the heck do you want him? Natsu questioned, not showing much of a reaction, as he was still angry at Itachi. I want revenge, and the best way for me to lure him here, is to capture his dearest friends. The samurai let out a dark chuckle. Hey, don't underestimate us. We don't need Itachi to come and save us. We are fairy tale. Natsu shouted as he was about to punch the barrier but stopped as he couldn't activate his flames. What the? Everyone in that barrier loses the ability to use their magic ability. And now I have lost interest in this conversation. The samurai said as a dark fog appeared around the barrier and they weren't visible anymore. You can scream all you want, I can't see or hear you, although you can see and hear me. The samurai said as he turned towards the cave entrance waiting for Itachi. Damn, what are we supposed to do now? Natsu questioned as Lucy was trying to figure the barrier out. I don't know, Lucy uttered. We will just have to wait for Oni-san to save us. Urza replied calmly. Hey, and why would he bother doing that? Natsu questioned with a growl. Natsu, get over it. Itachi has helped us before, and he will again. Lucy scolded Natsu. Gray remained silent as he still didn't trust Itachi completely. I know Itachi will come and help us, Wendy said with a smile as she was certain that Itachi would come to the rescue. Footsteps were then heard as Itachi entered the cave and narrowed his eyes at the samurai. Where are they? Itachi asked with an angry stare as his Sharingan flared up. They are around. Now let's begin, my revenge. The samurai said and released a lot of magical power. That energy, it's familiar, but it's not the assassin I captured 9 years ago, Itachi thought and got into a fighting stance. You are not that assassin from 9 years ago, I can tell. He was harder to track down than this, not to mention your magic energy signature is different from his. So, who are you? Hey, oh, you know me very well. The samurai said as Itachi vanished from where he stood and drew Urza's sword that he picked up earlier. He stood bent down right in front of the samurai. The samurai blocked it with the armor on his wrist and sent a surge of lightning through his body and about to electrocute Itachi, who jumped back. Lightning magic. Huh, Itachi thought as the samurai formed multiple orange magic circles and sent a barrage of fireballs. And fire magic. Itachi took out an equal number of kunai with paper bomb tags attached to them, and threw them at the fireballs, causing an explosion. In the thick smoke, the sound of pieces of metal clashing into each other was heard, as Itachi stood there blocking a double claw blade that the samurai had on his right hand, with Urza's sword. They both moved at incredible speeds, as the sound of the blades clashing echoed through the cave. They clashed once more before they jumped back. What is it you want? Why do you want revenge on me? Why? Huh, you should know. The samurai replied and sent a bolt of lightning towards Itachi, who jumped back, dodging it. Okay then, why kidnap my friends? Itachi questioned. I figured that was the best way to harm you, by killing the ones you care for. The samurai chuckled darkly as Itachi narrowed his eyes at him. He charged head-on at the samurai, swinging the sword rapidly, as the samurai backed up for each strike, blocking it. But that pink-haired one didn't seem to like you that much, and the black-haired one didn't seem to care. The samurai said tauntingly. Itachi tried to put him under an illusion, but from the looks of it, he was avoiding eye contact. He truly had studied Itachi and his abilities. So, I guess you guys aren't friends anymore. Then why do you even bother saving them? Why not just leave them here? The samurai kept on taunting. Because I already failed my old family, I don't intend on failing this one. Itachi replied and formed multiple hand seals. Fire style. Fireball. Itachi spat out a massive blazing ball of fire at the samurai. The samurai leapt to the side to avoid the fireball that crashed into the wall of the cave, making a massive melted hole. Natsu and Gray widened their eyes as they heard what Itachi said. They both remained silent and looked out from the barrier at the fight. Oh, family you say? Why would you call someone that hates you family? You truly are foolish. The samurai taunted even further. Because of my mistake, I lost everything I cared about once. I don't intend to lose what I care about ever again. That includes Natsu and Gray as well, no matter how they view me. They are my comrades, my guild mates, my family. I don't care if they hate me for what I have done. They have every right to, but that won't stop me from caring about them. Itachi kicked the samurai in the chest, sending him skidding back. Both Natsu and Gray had a look of grief and sorrow. Both clenched their fists. Natsu, Gray, Lucy uttered when suddenly both the boys punched the barrier, although nothing happened. Itachi moved at immense speed and dodged a punch from the samurai as he kneed him in the gut, making him bend forward as he gasped for air in pain. Itachi then elbowed the samurai in the back, grabbed him by the neck and pushed him up, and punched him in the gut. The samurai grunted in pain and chuckled darkly, as he swung his fist that looked like it grew in size for a bit, and smashed it into Itachi's face, sending him flying back. That was his hand, Itachi thought. The samurai flicked his fingers as the mist around the barrier surrounding Natsu and the others vanished, allowing Itachi to see them. You guys okay? Itachi questioned. We're fine, Urza replied as they all looked at him. Now, I will give you a choice. 1, either keep fighting me and they die. Or, give up your own life to save them. What will it be? The samurai asked as the barrier began to let out a bright light. That explosion will blow their bodies to bits, and kill them in a few seconds from now. And I am the only one who can stop it. So, get on your knees and prepare to die, or keep fighting and let them die. You have 40 seconds. The samurai replied and the ones trapped in the barrier widened their eyes in horror. Fine. Itachi got on his knees and dropped the sword. No, don't do it, Natsu shouted, trying to stop Itachi from getting himself killed. I am angry at you. But I still don't want you to die. Natsu shouted and kept banging in the barrier wall. Yeah man, we're friends. So, don't do it. Gray shouted. Oni-san. Urza shouted with a terrified look, although something was off about her which Itachi noticed. No, Itachi don't. We'll find another way, Lucy shouted as Wendy looked like she was about to cry. Get on with it. Itachi deactivated his Sharingan as the samurai moved in closer. That is what I like to hear. The samurai picked up Urza's sword and held it over Itachi's neck, and raised it. No, Natsu shouted as tears formed in his eyes, same with Gray and the others. You know what, I chose the third option, Itachi said and quickly grabbed the samurai's right wrist with his left hand, and grabbed the back of his head, forcing him to look Itachi in the eyes. Deactivate that barrier, right now, Itachi commanded as the samurai dropped the sword. I told you, I have no intention on failing my new family, and me dying, would be me failing them as well as letting them die. The barrier then vanished as Natsu and the others jumped towards Itachi. You are crazy man, we thought you were going to die. Gray scolded. Yeah, what the hell man. I was a little angry, but I still don't want you to die. You jerk. Natsu scolded as well. I did what I had to do. If I hadn't done that, who knows what would have happened. It was the only way to get close enough so that I could place him under a genjutsu. Then again, Itachi turned towards the samurai and kicked him awake. Wah, what the? The samurai questioned in confusion. Hey look, a half-naked young woman bending over, Itachi said, and the samurai instantly turned towards the way Itachi was looking with hearts in his eyes. Where? The samurai looked excited with hearts in his eyes and blood dripping from beneath his helmet, making everyone look at him with a deadpan expression. I figured it was you, Itachi said as the samurai began shaking as his body shrank to dwarf-like size, looking like a chibi shredder. Now there was a dwarf man wearing the samurai helmet. He removed his helmet and was revealed to be none other than Master Makarov. Hello there you damn brats. Makarov let out a nervous laughter. Master, Lucy, Wendy, Gray, Natsu, Happy, Charles questioned in unison. I thought it was you, although I wasn't sure. Itachi said with a sigh as he looked over at Urza. Might want to explain why you and the master did this. Huh, what do you mean, Itachi? Lucy questioned. How did you figure it out? Urza asked, which shocked everyone. It was clear that only 4 of you fell to the ground, and 2 small ones which were Happy and Charles. Which means one of you didn't fall down. She knocked you all out, and then her and Master Makarov took you to this cave. Itachi said, having figured it all out. Also, you tend to wiggle your nose when you lie, plus you are a terrible actor. Itachi gave an amused smile as he poked Urza's nose, making her blush faintly. As always, you are impressive, my boy. Makarov said with a chuckle. When did you figure it out? First, it was your energy signature. It was familiar, and very similar to yours, master. I was even further under suspicion when you made your fist bigger. However, I still wasn't sure and wasn't about to take the chance that they could die, so I knocked you out with a genjutsu, and once I did that, the camouflage magic around Freed vanished as well. Itachi said and looked over to the corner of the cave, seeing the green-haired member of the Thunder God tribe, who waved at them nervously. So, what was this all about? Itachi looked at Urza as the others demanded an answer as well. I wanted them to see that you were trustworthy, and that you were their comrade. So, I planned with the master to make a fake job request so that I could drag all of you with me. Had master waiting for us in the woods to ambush us, knocked you guys out, and took you to this cave, and had Freed trap us in a barrier so that we couldn't interfere with the fight. Urza explained the whole situation. Now boys, did it work? Makarov looked over at Natsu and Gray that looked down while clenching their fists. Natsu thought back on everything he, Itachi and the others have been together on jobs and missions. Itachi, I'm sorry. Natsu bowed as tears drops fell to the stone-cold ground. Gray thought back on everything he has been through with Itachi and the others. I'm sorry too, I should have known better and trusted you, I'm sorry. None of you have to apologize, I don't want you to. You can be mad at me, be angry at me, what I did was horrible and I don't expect you to forgive me. It doesn't matter if you feel anger at me, no matter what, I will always consider the 2 of you, and everyone in our guild, a part of my family, and families sometimes fight, that's only natural. Itachi replied with a kind brotherly-like smile as the 2 boys began to sob over how wrong they were, even though Itachi assured them that they had no reason to feel guilty. Yeah, same here, you're a part of my family no matter what, Natsu uttered. Yeah, you always will be, a part of Fairy Tail, Gray uttered as Itachi smiled kindly at them. Raise your heads, Itachi said, and they did just that, and both were poked by Itachi in the forehead. So, let's go back home. Itachi smiled as the 2 of them were still sobbing while holding back their tears. Guess everything is solved then, shall we head back, children? Makarov asked as he jumped out of the samurai armor and was dressed in his standard outfit. Yeah, they all replied and started walking back to the guild. Oh, and Urza, Itachi said, and Urza turned towards Itachi and got poked in the forehead by Itachi. I am thankful to have someone who is this worried about me as my little sister. Itachi smiled warmly at Urza as he was glad to have such a loving little sister care for him. Urza smiled warmly back at Itachi as she rubbed the spot on her forehead where he poked her. Once they returned, everyone was glad to hear that things had worked out, and they all celebrated. Then something unexpected happened. Natsu ended up in a fight. Well, that wasn't the unexpected part. It was against Max, and he struggled and even had to resort to using his lightning flame dragon mode to make Max give up. And then Natsu passed out from having used too much magic power in just that one roar. After that, Gray realized that their strength hasn't kept up with the times. Except for monsters like Itachi, Gildarts and Laxus. Now Natsu, Gray, Lucy, Wendy, Happy, and Charles had to find a way to grow super strong really fast. They decided to go to Perliuzica to maybe get some potions that would make them stronger. In the meantime, Makarov had an announcement to make at the guild hall. And so, I have decided to retire. I'll now introduce you to your new master. Are you serious? Kana questioned as all of them didn't want Makarov to retire already. Hold on, I still need to prepare myself. Macau said, straightening his coat, thinking he would keep the title of guild master. It obviously ain't you, Wakaba said. The 5th master of Fairy Tail is Gildarts Clive. Makarov announced, but in the direction he was pointing at stood Mira Jane and Itachi, who had a stoic face while rubbing the back of his head, while Mira just beamed with her usual smile. Where is Gildarts? Makarov asked the couple. He left us a letter. Mira replied and handed Makarov a letter. Yeah, you are not going to be happy about this. Itachi said and took the letter. I shall read it for you. Dear Master, and the rest of my guildmates, sorry, but being a master and all that ain't my style. Itachi read from the letter to the point where most of the guild were laughing at Makarov's stunned facial expression. But, since this is a rare chance, there are 2 things I'll do as the current master. First, I hereby recognize Laxus as a member of Fairy Tail. Laxus looked stunned and surprised at this. The nerve of him, Makarov growled. That old guy, Laxus uttered. That's great news, Laxus. Bixlo said with a grin. Now the Thunder God tribe is completely back in action. Evergreen hugged Laxus' arm out of joy that was shared with the rest of the group. Guildarts, how kind-hearted you are. Freed cried tears of joy. If the current master insists, then so be it. Makarov said although he was slightly happy over having his beloved grandson back. Anyway, second, I hereby appoint Makarov Drayar as Fairy Tail's 6th master. Itachi read from the letter. But I just retired. Makarov looked slightly angry while everyone laughed that things were getting back to normal. Itachi, become the new master. Please. Makarov begged. Yeah, I don't think so. I think I will wait until you are maybe dead before I even consider it. Itachi said with an amused smile, making Makarov hang his head down as he had to come back from retirement. Anyway, to finish the letter. I'm going to travel for a while. I plan on coming back when I feel like it. Until then, take care. Signed, Guildarts Clive. Itachi finished the letter. Mira then handed Kana another letter from Guildarts, which contained a card for her to summon him when she needed. To which she ripped apart, stating that she was fine with how things were and that she didn't need it. And Guildarts' final wish in that letter to Makarov was that he would lead Fairy Tail back to the top. Final. After this, I won't let anyone else be master now. I'm going to keep going until I die. That's the final thing, Makarov declared, to which everyone let out a chuckle. Then discussion on how Fairy Tail would become number 1 again occurred, and everyone thought it was going to take a long time until that happens. That is, until Romeo jumped on a table. I waited 7 years. I don't wanna waste any more time. Nay, Itachi ni. There is a way we can shoot right to the top. Why you can't mean? Nab questioned as for some reason everyone looked either ashamed or scared. No, I decided we wouldn't take part in it. Macau shouted. What is it, 4th master? Makarov questioned. Could you not call me that, 6th master? Macau said. Enough. What is this you are all talking about? Itachi asked with a curious look on his face. Look, it doesn't matter because we are not doing it. Macau said. We are doing it. We are. Romeo argued with his father. We're not. Macau argued with his son like a little child. I absolutely disallow it. We're never taking part in it again. We're back, Natsu announced as they walked through the door, and all they had with them was a book of spells for Wendy that her dragon had given to Perliusica, who turned out to be the Edalus version of said dragon. You don't get to decide, Dad. You're not master anymore, Romeo argued. I'm speaking as a member of the guild. Macau argued. Enough. How about you stop keeping us out, and just tell us what it is before we decide on anything. Itachi said as everyone froze and looked a little frightened at the fact that Itachi raised his voice. Well, you see, it wouldn't matter because you guys missed out on 7 years of training, so participating in that is out of the question. Macau said in a calm demeanor. That's not what I asked. I asked what it is. Itachi said as everyone who were at Tenro looked like they demanded an answer as well. While you guys were away, a festival started up to determine Fiore's number 1 guild. Romeo said, to which Natsu looked excited. That sounds fun. Guilds from all over Fiore gather and compete with magic power. It's known as the Grand Magic Games. Romeo explained. Oh, Natsu looked excited. The Grand Magic Games. Lucy also had an excited look on her face, not the same as Natsu who just wanted to fight. Sounds fun, Wendy said with the same excitement as Lucy. So, it is literally a festival. Gray said, also looking a little excited, like Natsu. Well, almost. I see. And Fiore's number 1 guild right now is Sabretooth, was it? Urza asked. Yes. If we beat Sabretooth and win the games, we can be Fiore's number 1 guild. Romeo said with excitement at getting back on the number 1 spot. Still, I'm not sure that's possible with our current skill level, Makarov said, considering everyone else has had 7 years to improve while they were stuck on Tenro. Yes. That's right. Macau agreed with Makarov. If we win, the guild will get 30 million jewel in prize money. Romeo said, appealing to the master's greedy side. We're participating, Makarov announced. Master. Macau said. It's pointless. What about Pegasus and Lamia? Droy questioned. Sabretooth isn't our only competition. Warren said. We'll just have to beat them all to a pulp. Makarov declared while throwing air punches. Sabretooth. Huh, I'm fired up now, Natsu declared while letting out fire from his fist. When is this tournament, anyway? Natsu asked Romeo. In 3 months. Romeo replied. Good, that gives me plenty of time, Itachi said, to which everyone looked at him in confusion. To prepare the strongest members of our guild, my way. Itachi said with a grin that seemed malicious, and it didn't help that his Sharingan was glowing blood red. Everyone began sweating bullets, and those who knew they were strong began to pale, looking white as ghosts. We're screwed, Gray uttered. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The next part will be out soon.